Hey, what is happening, you churro chuckin' cherubi? I'm finally back uploading here on the YouTube channel. Made my way home from Stockholm, Sweden, where I was able to get the dub, actually. I'm gonna have a video coming out talking about the deck I played and kind of how to play it as well, coming up here soon on the YouTube channel. But today we're talking about Twilight Masquerade. Got the full set list. It's coming out next week. Gonna be playing on Thursday over on the live stream here on YouTube and over on Twitch. So we're doing the set review and the buy list for Twilight Masquerade here today. And if any of y'all are looking to pick up some Twilight Masquerade products, Game Grid has got you covered. GameGridSLC.com. They've got the Game Grid. They've got the Twilight Masquerade products available over there. You can use code AzulGG. And if you do, booster boxes are coming in at under $100. So make sure you take advantage of that. GameGridSLC.com. Link will be in the description. Code AzulGG. Get yourself a discount. And let's go ahead and let's jump right into it. First up, we got the Volbeat in the Illumise. They got some interesting attacks that we could potentially take advantage of in our early game. The fast sign here from the Volbeat: if you go first, you can use this attack during your first turn, search your deck for up to 2 basic Pokemon and put them onto your bench, then shuffle your deck. So that's pretty powerful attack to be able to use on your first turn going first. And it does combo well with Jet Energy and would also combo well with any deck that plays a lot of switch cards or where you have a lot of Pokemon that have free retreat costs. So Volbeat made it onto the buy list as the 2 of. Could definitely see this deck popping up, or this card popping up in a deck or two in the near future. The Illumise also made it on there with the Slowing Perfume. For a colorless energy, you can use this attack only if you go second and only during your first turn. Shuffle one of your opponent's bench Pokemon and all cards attached to it into their deck. Once again, would heavily rely on getting this thing into the active on that first turn. Going to be a little bit easier when you are going second because you have that draw supporter to potentially utilize to see more cards to get there. And yeah, being able to, like, if your opponent opens, like, I don't know, say they open a Charmander and they bench a Bidoof. You shuffle that Bidoof back into the deck, they don't have B-Barrel next turn. It's a pretty big setback. So this could be a pretty powerful inclusion. Once again, same reason, just a very disruptive. I guess like the Volbeat is like a really powerful setup attack. The Illumise is a very powerful disruptive attack. And actually there's a card pretty similar to both of these that we're going to talk about a little bit later on that I think also potentially has some potential. That also has some potential. The Thwackey Grookey made it onto the buy list as a 4 of. It's the only Grookey that will be available on release, so that's as a 4 of on the buy list. Oh, the Volbeat and the Illumise are both a 2 of on the buy list as well. I guess I'll mention that as we go through it. The Thwackey made it to the buy list as well. That Bang Bang drum ability is super powerful. If your active Pokemon has the ability Festival Lead, you may use this ability to search your deck for a card and put it into your hand, then shuffle your deck. That's pretty good to be able to find any one card. Quick search is already really good. That's on a stage 2 though. The Thwackey is a stage 1, but it does need that Pokemon with Festival Lead in the active spot, which is kind of the, I don't know, hold up there. There's a couple different options to choose from as far as the Festival Lead Pokemon goes that we're going to take a look at here. But yeah, Thwackey made it onto the buy list as a 4 of alongside the Grookey as a 4 of. I don't think it'll be great on release because Dragapult seems like it's pretty powerful BDIF level material. Over in Japan, it's dominating in general, like as being like the BDIF, not like super dominant like pre-rotation Lugia where it's like 30% of the meta, you know, 6 in top 8, stuff like that. But it seems like it's solidly the best deck and everything's kind of working around that. But there are other decks popping up that are able to compete. But something like this Thwackey, that 60 HP or the 100 HP, excuse me, when the 60 damage type's coming through from the Dragapults, I don't think it's gonna be able to keep up with that. So yeah, Thwackey I think is good, but as long as Dragapult is top dog, I don't think a Thwackey engine style deck is gonna be viable quite yet. But I mean, this ability is too good to not make its way into a deck in the future. So yeah, Thwackey, definitely want to pick that up. And with that, Thwackey does evolve into Rillaboom. This Rillaboom's not bad. Charizard is not what it is this format next format, but still being able to do 180 damage for 2 grass energy, being able to take advantage of that typing potentially seems worth it. The Wood Hammer here, 180. This Pokemon does 50 damage to itself. The Drum attack for a grass energy during your opponent's next turn. The Pokemon attacks and retreat costs are colorless more. That almost seems like the better attack to be like a little bit disruptive, to be honest. So Rillaboom made it onto the buy list as a 2 of. The Applin here, only need this because it does evolve into the Diplin. Applin's a 4 of on the buy list as well. And the buy list will be in the description down below if you just want to go check that out. And for every cards pre-evolution that there's a better one of that's not in Twilight Masquerade, and I'll kind of mention what, or I'll fully let you know what I'm saying when we get there. I will let you know. It'll have like the set and the set number for what is the best pre-evolution besides the ones that are in this set, if you want to pick those up to have the best pre-evolutions for the evolutions that seem worth it and made it to the buy list from this set. So the Diplin is also a 4 of on the buy list, and I think this could be a deck if, once again, Dragapult wasn't the BDIF. So I'm holding out hope for the Diplin. I think it's got a ton of potential, and and I think it definitely could become a fairly powerful contender as soon as Dragapult's not the BDIF. Festival lead: if Festival Grounds is in play, this Pokemon may use its attack twice. The first attack KOs your opponent's active Pokemon. You may attack again after your opponent chooses a new Pokemon. Do the wave, 20 damage times the number of your bench Pokemon. So fill up your bench, do 100 damage, and then do 100 more damage. That's not bad. Combo this with Thwackey, of course, because it has the Festival lead ability as your engine. And with the Thwackey, then you're searching out 2, maybe even any 3 cards you want during your turn. That's not bad. That's pretty powerful. Absolutely love the Diplin. Love the idea of it. And if it wasn't for Dragapult, I think it would be pretty good on release. But I think we have to wait for a little bit for the Diplin to kind of fully form into being what it could be. Iron Leaves did make its way onto the buy list as a 2 of. Just another future card that is good in a potential future box. Of course, future box, not great right now. And from the results we've seen from Japan, doesn't look like future box becomes like ridiculously powerful with the next set. But you never know. It's got a lot of pieces, got a lot of tools, and this could definitely be one of them if Charizard picks it up in popularity again at some point in the future, something like that. It's got that Vengeful Edge for a grass and double color, so 100 damage. If any of your Pokemon were knocked out by damage from an attack during your opponent's last turn, you do 60 more damage. 160, 320. Charizard has 330 HP. You get an Iron Leaves involved or one of the future capsules, and you're knocking out a Charizard EX or anything else weak to grass, to be honest. Anything else weak to grass. The Teacups or the Matcha Pokemon did not make it onto my buy list, so we'll skip that. The Ogerpon EX did, though. Not all the Ogerpons made it onto my buy list, but the Ogerpon EX did. I think Ogerpon is actually more powerful as like a draw engine / energy acceleration engine in decks than it is as in its own deck. One thing that's been popping up recently, I've been seeing a lot of people talk about, is the including it with the Raging Bolt. This could be the missing piece for Raging Bolt. The Teal Dance. Once in your turn, you may attach a basic grass energy from your hand to this Pokemon. If you do, draw a card. So you get a little bit of energy acceleration, you draw a card. The attack, nothing super special for 3 gas energy. You do 30 damage more for, or 30 plus 30 for each energy attached to both active Pokemon. So if you get the 3 on this, you do 1-hit KO Charizard with 3 grass energy on it. So that's kind of cool. But you only have 210 HP, so Charizard's knocking you out right back. Or even worse, maybe a Radiant Zard is going to knock you out, which is not great because that's a 1 prize on the active. But possibly the missing piece for Radiant Bolt, or the missing piece for some other deck that needs some form of energy acceleration in play and getting that little bit of extra draw power from the Teal Dance as well. Definitely not complaining about that. So yeah, 4 of on the buy list is the Ogerpon EX. Ton of potential for that to kind of fit that role in many different decks in the future, to be honest. So I'm excited to see what comes of it. But yeah, I don't think the Ogerpon deck is actually going to be a thing. The Fire Ogerpon did not make it onto my buy list. Does not seem worth it. I don't even know what deck you'd even want to ever consider playing this in. So yeah, the Fire Ogerpon didn't make it. The other ones did. All the other Ogerpons besides the Fire Ogerpon made it onto my buy list. The Goldeen also made it onto my buy list as a 4 of. I couldn't quite come up with the best number to like include this in the buy list, so I just put 4. Festival Grounds in play. This Pokemon may use an attack it has twice. If the first attack knocks out your opponent's active Pokemon, you may attack again after your opponent chooses a new active Pokemon. Whirlpool, 10 damage, flip 1 of heads, discard an energy, attach your opponent's active Pokemon for 2 colors energy. It's not here for the attack, though. The reason this could be fairly powerful comboed with Thwackey is you can put a rescue board on it. Your opponent knocks out your active Pokemon. You send up the Goldeen, and then you use Thwackeys to go search your deck for any 2 or 3 cards from your deck. And then from there, you just set up your next attack or whatever it might be, and you attack again. So it's kind of like an engine, the Goldeen plus Thwackey engine. There's like a bunch of different things you could play it with. And of course, like the Diplin has the ability itself. So like for the Diplin deck, you don't actually need to play like the Goldeen or like the Swirlix, which we'll look at here in a second. But the Goldeen plus Thwackey could combo with literally anything. You could literally combo with any kind of attacker, some kind of control deck, whatever it might be. And as far as control decks go, maybe you actually do attack with the Whirlpool. Play 4 double turbo energy, and then you actually use Whirlpool as an attack to discard energy from your opponent's active Pokemon. Get some Crushing Hammers involved, maybe. I don't know. But that could be pretty cool as well, to be honest. So maybe some kind of Goldeen Thwackey control deck could be a thing. That would be interesting, to be honest. That definitely would be pretty interesting for sure. Up next, we got the Melodic, and this Feebas is not the best Feebas we have around right now. The best Feebas we have is from Silver Tempest, and yeah, on the Google Doc with the buy list, I will leave also, not only I have Melodic in the buy list as a 2 of, I have the set and set number for that Feebas as well, so you can go find that Feebas. If you want to get the best Feebas to combo with Melodic currently in the format, that Feebas I think does rotate, but after rotation, who knows what Feebas we'll have access to. But currently, right now, when this video is uploaded and you're listening to it, the best Feebas is from Silver Tempest. So if you want the best Feebas to combo with this Melodic, go get that one. But It's got that Tranquil ability, your opponent's active Pokemon in play, and the cards attached to those Pokemon can't be returned to their hand. So this stops stuff like Charon's Care and Penny and Turo. Definitely could have some value as maybe like an anti-control card, because like current takes on control and stall do involve cards like Penny. So this could be an answer to those kind of decks potentially. I'm sure there's other things that would pop up where this could be good as well. So it's just a good card to have around in your collection. Up next, we got the Frostlass. Once again, this is not the best snow run, but go ahead and check out the Google Doc to figure out what the best snow run is. Galele made its way onto the buy list as a 2 of as well, because it does have that damage beat attack that does synergize pretty well with Frostlass. 20 damage for each damage counter on your opponent's active Pokemon for just 1 water energy. And then the Frostlass made it onto the buy list as a 4 of with that freezing curtain during Pokemon checkup. But 1 damage counter on each Pokemon in play with an ability, both yours and your opponent's, which is kind of unfortunate, except any Frostlass. So it's kind of a spread ability to Pokemon in play, of course, with those abilities. Definitely a very powerful ability. It is on a stage 1, which makes it a little bit slow to get to. And then the question would be, okay, what are we comboing with this? A lot of the most powerful Pokemon in the game have abilities. Do you really want to be damaging your own Pokemon with your Frostlass? Probably not. I've been seeing some decks combo this with Greninja, the Greninja EX, which is definitely interesting. I'm not sure what else would really work with this, but that's definitely a reasonable partner for sure. This ability is just so strong. I feel like I got to include it in my buy list, because I definitely think it'll pop up at some point and be in a top meta deck, you know, tiers 1, 2, or 3, or tier list, yeah, tier 1, 2, or 3. I definitely think it'll get there for sure. So Frostlass does make the buy list as well. So where I am here. All right, the Fion also made its way onto my buy list as well. Interesting attack for 1 color synergy. Put a supporter card from your discard pile into your hand. So theoretically, like an infinite resource type Pokemon. Regieleki already does this better than the Fion, but once Regieleki rotates, then I could see the Fion actually taking its place. And of course, something else good, better than that could come out by then, but I thought I would mention that, and it did make its way onto my buy list as a 2 of. And Greninja EX, even though it's not doing great in Japan immediately on release, the card just seems so good. I'm still holding out hope. I think it's got the potential. It doesn't have to be good immediately on release. I think some point in its lifespan, it'll be a top 3, not top 3, in the top 3 tiers of meta decks in a format. So with Greninja EX, we want to get the best Froakies. This is the best Froakie by far we've ever seen, I think. With the Flock attack for a water energy, search your deck for up to 2 Froakie and put them onto your bench, then shuffle your deck. That's pretty good. And with that, also got to get the best Frogadier. So we've got the Frogadiers on the buy list as well. With the numbing water, flip a coin of heads, your opponent's active is now paralyzed for 20 damage. Not bad. Another thing I included on my buy list here is this Cramorant with the Spit Shot. For 3 color energy, discard all energy from this Pokemon. This attack does 120 damage to one of your opponent's bench Pokemon. I think this could actually be decent in Lugia. Now we are getting the Water Ogerpon, which also seems pretty decent in Lugia. It does 100 damage to your opponent's active and 120 damage to one of your opponent's benched Pokemon, and then you shuffle all energy attached to it back into your deck. The Cramorant does discard its energy, and it doesn't do 100 damage to the active, but it is a 1 prize Pokemon. So if you're in a situation where you want to like snipe one of your opponent's bench Pokemon for at least 120 damage, or for 120 damage I should say, but you don't want to leave a 2 prize Pokemon in your active, or the 100 damage you'd be doing to the active is super irrelevant, then something like the Cramorant actually kind of makes sense to potentially include in Lugia. So put this down on the buy list as a 1 of, and yeah, keep it there for now. We'll see what happens. I did put the Palafin EX, another EX from the set that has seen very little results over in Japan, but I'm holding out hope for this one. Got the Phineas in here, 70 HP on the buy list, 4 of those. Got 4 of the Palafin with that 0 to hero ability. Once your turn, when this Pokemon moves from your active spot to the bench, you may search your deck for a Palafin EX. Switch it with this Pokemon. Any cards attached, damage, counter, special condition, turns in play, and any other effects remain on the new Pokemon. If you switch a Pokemon in this way, put this card into your deck. And then the Palafin EX, 340 HP. Got that ability, Hero Spirit, which just says put this Pokemon into play with the effect of Palafin's Hero to Zero ability. And then for 1 water energy, 250 damage. You can't attack during your next turn, but to get the Palafin to the bench and then get this one back to the active, we're already gonna be playing a ton of switch cards, so resetting this thing shouldn't be a problem. And Jake Gerhardt, who was in my chat earlier when I was going through and setting or getting my buy list set, did mention that this probably does get a little bit better when we do get the Pecharunt EX. You can combo that with the free retreat Darkmoor Peko, and then you actually have a way to move in and out consistently with an ability to actually reset the Palafin's attack and initially get those Palafins in play. So that might be the missing piece. for the Palafin EX deck might be that Pecharunt EX. For right now, I think it's solid. It's got the potential, so it made it onto my buy list as a 4 of as well. So I got all the Palafin stuff. The Ogerpon EX, the water one, got that torrential pump attack, water double colors, 100 damage, and then you may shuffle 3 energy attached to this Pokemon into your deck. If you do, you do 120 damage to one of your opponent's benched Pokemon. So like I mentioned, the Cramorant snipes for 120 damage. So does this, and this also does 100 damage to the active, but sometimes 100 damage to the active just isn't relevant, and you just want to snipe on the bench. And also, there's like another thing to deal with that. You don't want to leave a 2 prize on your active, but sometimes you do want that extra 100 damage to your opponent's active, and you don't mind leaving a 2 prize on your active. So yeah, Ogerpon made its way into the buy list as a 1 of. Seems like a pretty solid inclusion in Lugia. Like I mentioned, the Cram also seems pretty decent. It's gonna come down to just what are the matchups and what makes the most sense to include, of course. For the Luxray, once again, another EX card that's not seen a ton of success in Japan. This one has seen a little bit more than the other 2 I've mentioned, I think, so far, from what I've seen from looking at City League results. The Luxray EX, 310 HP. It's got that piercing glint attack, super powerful attack for 2 colorless energy. 120 damage because your opponent's hand. Discard 1 card you find there. That's pretty good. You're doing some damage. Discarding important cards from your opponent's hand. I don't know. I really like this card. Seems really good as some type of like pseudo control Luxray type deck. And then for the Shinxes and the Luxios, I put those once again. Check out the Google Doc to figure out what are the best Shinx. I think this is the best Luxio at the end of it all. The big bite, lightning to your opponent's next turn to defend Pokemon can't retreat. Do some kind of like lockup thing with Alakazam, Radiant Alakazam potentially. Get a double turbo on here, and then you're doing less damage. You can trap something in the active forever potentially. But yeah, go ahead, check out the Google Doc with the full buy list. I listed all the good Luxios to potentially choose from, or not Luxios, Shinxes to potentially choose from. There's like 2 or 3 different Shinxes that actually are pretty decent right now. So go check out that. But yeah, Luxray EX, it's got the potential. Excited to try it out when it does drop and see what it can do. Emolga also made its way onto my buy list, 60 HP. Free retreaters are always pretty good to keep in mind as what ones are the best ones, or what can the different ones do. And this one's got a pretty interesting attack for 1 colorless energy, 10 damage, and this attack also does 10 damage to each bench Pokemon, both yours and your opponent's. So unfortunately it does hit your bench, but sometimes there's just like those matchups where you just come up consistently like 10 damage short from a knockout. So if you had just a way to like set up all of your opponent's Pokemon before you get into your main attackers, you could just win the matchup. Hey, Emolga might be the missing piece for a matchup at some point in the future, so makes its way into the buy list as a 2 of. So does this Morpeko with a pretty interesting ability. Once on your turn, you may look at the top card of your deck, then you may discard it. It's okay. One way you could combo this would be to include it in a Miraidon deck, and then you'd be able to look at the top card of your deck. If it's a lightning energy, you know you immediately want to use an electric generator, or if it's not a lightning energy and it's a card you don't want, you can go ahead and discard it and then use an electric generator. And also it is searchable with Miraidon's ability as well, because it is a lightning Pokemon, so that could be a cute way to include this Morpeko into a deck immediately. But once again, interesting, unique ability. Those are the kind of things that you always want to have around, just in case it just makes sense all of a sudden for a certain deck in a certain matchup. Like, yeah, so Morpeko made its way onto my buy list as a 2 of. Up next, I'm dreading that this card is actually good in the form of the quad deck. But yeah, the Iron Thorns EX, 230 HP. While this Pokemon's in the active spot, Pokemon with a rule box in play, except any future Pokemon don't have any abilities. And then for Lightning Double Colors, Bolt Cyclone, 140, move 1 energy from this Pokemon to one of your bench Pokemon. I'm dreading this deck actually being good, the quad version. There's been a quad Iron Thorns EX deck that's done okay in Japan so far. It was doing better before they got the Mask of Change set, when they just had the Ursaluna set, whatever that was called, Crimson Moon, I think. It was doing better then. Ever since the Mask of Change set has dropped, I haven't seen as much success from this deck over in Japan, and I'm hoping Quad Iron Thorns EX is not a good deck, because that deck is just, it's like you're not playing Pokemon. It's like going up against Quadlax. Like, no one likes playing against Quadlax. It's not fun to. It doesn't really feel like you're playing Pokemon. Going up against a Quad Iron Thorns EX deck would be pretty similar to that, so I'm hoping that the Quad Iron Thorns EX deck is not good, but it's a really powerful ability. It's got the potential, so it makes it as a 4 of onto my buy list. I'm just hoping it doesn't come into being like super powerful. I'm hoping like if Iron Thorns EX is good, it's good as like a 1 of or a 2 of in a Miraidon deck, or there's like some future box deck that is good in something like that. That's what I want to see, hopefully. Quad Iron Thorns scares me. Does not sound very fun. We got the Clefable here, got a really powerful attack, but that's kind of all it's got going for it. Choose one of your opponent's active Pokemon's attacks and use it as this attack for 2 colorless energy. that's just pretty good. That's just pretty good. Now it is a stage 1 to include, and it does take 2 colorless energy, so you'd have to either play it with double turbo energy, or you have to play with some form of energy acceleration. I'm not quite sure where this fits. And once again, for the Clefairies, there's a lot of good Clefairies. There's this Clefairy, and there's a couple other Clefairies. So once again, check out the Google Doc. All the Clefairies are definitely viable. It kind of depends on what build of deck would ever have the Clefable in it, stuff like that. The Abra here, once again, unique abilities are just good to have on hand. Once in your turn, if this Pokemon is in the active spot, you may shuffle it and all cards attached to it into your deck. Theoretically, like an infinite deck thing like the Pidgeot V currently gives you, which has definitely been a powerful ability in a couple decks to take advantage of. So yeah, Abra made its way onto the buy list as a 2 as well, just for the unique ability. It's just good to have things with unique abilities around. You never know when it's going to be the way to go. Keep going down here, scrolling through. The Swirlix is the other option alongside the, what was the other one? The Goldeen. 1 retreat cost, rescue board fits on it, put it in the active, use your Thwackies. If you have the Festival Grounds in play, this Pokemon can attack twice. For a Psychic Energy, it does 2 damage counters on one of your opponent's Pokemon. It's really just here to have Festival Lead as an ability in the active, so you can use your Thwackies to search your deck for any one card. The Goldeen seems better, but the Swirlix, because of the Psychic Energy and the potential attack, did make its way into the buy list as a 4 of as well. Screamtail EX made it as a 1 of. That Sudden Shriek attack, very, very powerful if you could consistently pull this off. You can use this attack only if you go second and during your first turn. To your opponent's next turn, they can't play any supporter cards from their hand for 1 colorless energy. Combos really well with Jet Energy, obviously, and you can kind of put it in anything because it is a colorless energy. The main way I kind of thought of to use this after, was it Jake Gearhart mentioned it once again in my chat? The main way I can think of to use this would be something playing this in some kind of Lost Zone deck sounds kind of cool. You go second, use Colress, use Sudden Shriek, next turn, Colress again, and now you can get up to 7 to even 10 in the Lost Zone. And then you can utilize Radiant Greninja, you can utilize Sableye. Something like this in Lost Tina could be cool as well to slow down your opponent. Instead of a Beseeching for your turn, you go second, Comfy Colress, Jet Energy, Sudden Shriek, into next turn going Colress, Comfy, and then you're Lost impacting from there. That could be pretty cool. This would slow down your opponent really well, to be honest. So yeah, the Sudden Shriek, I don't know, it seems pretty good to me. I'm definitely think there's something there for sure. The Monkey Dory. This card has been doing super well over in Japan, actually. In Gardevoir decks and Blissey decks. Once your turn, this Pokemon has any darkness energy attached to it, you may move 3 damage counters from one of your Pokemon to one of your opponent's Pokemon. The attack, not as relevant. For a Psychic and a Colorless Mind Bend, 6 damage. Your opponent's active is now confused. But yeah, the Monkey Dory, super powerful ability. I thought it would be a little bit much to get it cooking and get it going because you need a dark energy on it, but it's been doing work over in Japan for sure. So yeah, Monkey Dory made it as a 4 of onto my bias. I think the Blissey lists are playing 4 over there as well. So yeah, my bias made it to a 4. Pheasantipity has not been popping up in Gardevoir decks like I thought it might. It's got that ability, Adrenaline, Pheromones. If this Pokemon has any darkness energy attached to it, and if any damage is done to this Pokemon by attacks, flip a coin if heads, prevent that damage. Really powerful ability. The attack is okay. For Psychic Energy, 30 damage, this attack does 30 more damage for each energy attached to this Pokemon. So obviously combos in Gardevoir. We haven't seen it really pop up over in Japan though in Gardevoir decks. They've been playing the Monkey Dory, not been going in on the Adrenaline Pheromones of the Pheasantipity though. So yeah, I'm not sure how good this card actually is, but it did make its way onto my buy list as a 2 of. Definitely synergizes with Gardevoir. Gardevoir's good. The ability on the Pheasantipity is good. Yeah, I think there might be something there eventually for sure. I mean, the ability is just so good. Yeah, I think it'll have its potential. It has the potential. We'll see if it ever comes to fruition. The Greninja EX, another card. It's got the potential, man. We haven't seen it in Japan quite yet. I've seen a couple in the City League results. One recently, I think, just won a City League. But yeah, the Ninja Blade for a Water Energy, 170 damage. You may search your deck for any one card and put into your hand. That's pretty efficient, powerful attack. And then for Water Double Colorless, discard 2 energy from this Pokemon. This attack does 120 damage to 2 of your opponent's benched Pokemon, or 2 of your opponent's Pokemon, actually. You can hit the active if you wanted to. And of course, be able to search out any one card. You can set up Cancel and Cologne combos pretty easily. Playing this with Pidgeot makes a ton of sense. So yeah, Greninja EX, super powerful card, I feel like. It's got the potential. 4 of on the buy list. It looks like initially in the most immediate format, well, this format immediately when the set drops, it probably doesn't seem great, but yeah, it's got the potential, so I think it's just going to be a matter of time for that card. Cornerstone Mask, Ogerpon EX, maybe the best of the Ogerpons, just kind of neutrally. The ability, prevent all damage from attacks done to this Pokemon by your opponent's Pokemon that have an ability. A lot of the best Pokemon in the game have abilities, so pretty good ability to have. Demolish, 140 for a fighting in 2 colors. attacks damage isn't affected by weakness, resistance, or any other effects on your opponent's active Pokemon. So made its way onto my buy list as the 2 of, because I think in like control/stall decks, this is just like a really, really good card. Put it up there. Pokemon with abilities can't hit it. Hey, that's pretty good. Like, imagine putting this thing in play against Charizard. Can't hit you with Charizard. Can't hit you with Pidgeot. Can't hit with Pidgeot. Can't hit with Radzard. Like, they're cooked. They're done. Of course, up against something like Dragapult. Dragapult doesn't have an ability, so not gonna be as good against stuff like Dragapult. But yeah, this ability is just so broken. It's on a basic Pokemon. I feel like in control/stall, this is like a no-brainer. Will be good at some point. So 2 of on the buy list. Pretty easy inclusion there, if I do say so myself. I think we do have to scroll for a little while here to get to our next card. We are closing in on the trainer cards here. The Dragon Diplin. I also put this on the buy list as a 4 of, or Dragon Applin, excuse me, because the Diplin, the Grass Diplin makes sense for one of the trainer cards we're going to talk about here. But if for some reason you don't play that card, then the Dragon Diplin is better with that Find and Friend attack. Search your deck for a Pokemon, reveal it, and put it into your hand, then shuffle your deck. So yeah, kind of depends on if you're playing the Grass card we're going to talk about here, the Grass trainer card here we're going to talk about here in a second. And now we get to Dragapult, 4 Dreepy, 4 Dracloak. With that ability, Telling Spirit, once on your turn, you may look at the top 2 cards of your deck, put one of them into your hand, put the other on the bottom of your deck. Super strong ability. Draw engine ability on a stage 1, on a stage in a stage 2 line is always broken. Look at Curly and Guard for. And then the Dragapult itself is great, of course, 320 HP. Jet Headbutt for 70. The Fire and the Psychic, 200 damage, put 6 damage counters on your opponent's bench Pokemon in any way you like. Yeah, Dragapult, it's sick. BDIF this format, or this coming up format, it seems like for sure. So many things you can do with the attack as well. Spread damage, pick up knockouts, set up for TM Devos. Ton of HP, doing a ton of damage. Man, it's got it all, basically, to be honest. And a bunch of different ways people are playing it. They're playing it with the Lost Zone, which doesn't seem great, to be honest. I don't think the Lost Zone build's very good. But then Xatu and Pidgeot seem to be the top 2 ways to play the deck. And I think Pidgeot will probably win out in the end as the best way to play the deck. But I guess we'll have to wait and see for sure. The consistent energy acceleration and draw power from the Xatu alongside the Dracloak seems nice. But you can't really argue against Quick Search being Quick Search, right? Honestly, Dragapult EX mirror matches sound terrible. Get your Dragapult set up, spread damage, TM Devo, go cry in a corner. I don't know. That sounds terrible to go second in the mirror match if they get like turn 2. I guess like maybe you'd want to go second though, just more cleanly set up a turn 2 Dragapult. Either way, yeah, it sounds bad. Attack a couple times, TM Devo the whole board. Yeah, no one's having any fun in the Dragapult mirror, it doesn't sound like. But yeah, broken card. Easy 4 of on the buy list. AzulGG also made it as a 4 of on the buy list. I think I definitely see a deck that like plays 4 of these. You just like open it and you play a bunch of switch cards to make sure you can get your correct supporter you want with the AzulGG. Insane ability. Attract customers. Once in your turn, if this Pokemon is in the active spot, you may look at the top 6 cards of your deck, reveal a supporter you find there, and put it to your hand, then shuffle the other cards back into your deck. Yeah, just broken ability. 4 of on the buy list. AzulGG is great. The Farfetch also made its way onto my buy list as a 2 of. When you play this Pokemon from your hand onto your bench, during your turn, you may search your deck for a Pokemon tool card and attach it to this Pokemon, then shuffle your deck. So this specifically combos really, really well with TM Evo and TM Devo, mostly TM Evo though. And once again, kind of comes down to just like I was talking about with the Screamtail and the Illumise and the Volbeat. Gotta get this thing into the active on that first turn to be able to take advantage of that TM Evo. But it would drastically increase the amount of outs to finding TM Evo turn 1. If you're like an Arven deck, it would go from like 4 Arven to 4 Arven, plus 4 Ultra Ball, plus the Farfetch'd. Maybe even 2 Farfetch if you want to play 2 so you don't prize it. And then it would just be, can you get the Farfetch from the bench into the active? That would kind of come down to what kind of deck you're playing. Do your other Pokemon have free retreat? Do you play Jet Energy? Do you play switch cards? But yeah, big potential for Farfetch plus the TM Evo. Now we get to the Blissey EX. There's a couple different chances, once again, to pick from here. So check out the buy list. Check out all the ones I listed as being the best contenders for ones to consider. But yeah, the Blissey EX been making waves recently. 300 HP. Got the Happy Switch ability. Once in your turn, you may move a basic energy from one of your Pokemon to another of your Pokemon. And then return for 3 colorless energy. 180. You may draw cards if you have 6 in your hand. So the way the combo's working with this deck is you set up a Blissey, hit for 180, draw some cards. You get hit back, and then with a couple Happy Switches, not just this Blissey, but maybe some Blisseys on the bench, you move all the energy off this Blissey to a different Blissey, and then you Charon's Care of this Blissey, and then send up the new Blissey, hit for 180 again, draw until you have 6 again, and you kind of repeat that process of being a really tanky EX Pokemon. 300 HP is a lot. Put a tool card maybe on your Blisseys as well. Makes it even harder to deal with. The Charon's Care heal comes involved. Yeah, just kind of ridiculous, to be honest. Yeah, this is also fighting Pokemon are just not really a thing right now. So the fighting weakness is just not super relevant. usually is in the Pokemon TCG, but right now fighting is just not a thing. So yeah, Blissey looking pretty good. 4 of on the buy list. Like I said, Chansey's, a couple different ones to pick from. So check out the buy list for the different ones I listed. The Blood Moon Ursaluna EX. When thinking about it and talking about it with my chat, Dragapult's great, and Dragapult does seem like it's going to be the VDIF, but I think the best Pokemon and the best overall card in the set is definitely the Blood Moon Ursaluna EX. This card is absurd. 260 HP, Eldritch Technique. This Pokemon's Blood Moon attacks cost 1 colorless for each product card your opponent has taken, and then the Blood Moon attack is 240 damage for colorless. So it's basically Radiant Charizard as a 2-prizer with a ton of HP, but it's not limited to a specific energy type. You can play this in literally any deck, and it's being played in a ton of decks over in Japan. And yeah, it's just a really good broken card. So have it on my buy list as a 2 of, because there is some potential to potentially like run 2 of these in a deck and maybe do like some weird penny looping stuff, or even just attack with them back to back. If you play some form of energy acceleration, when your opponent's down to 3 prize cards, you could attack with a Blood Moon Ursaluna with 2 energy. They knock out that one, and sure, you could super rod and recover it, but you could just run 2 of them and then attack with another one for just 1 energy. So made its way into the buy list as a 2 of. For all the trainer cards, they all made its way into my buy list as a 4 of, except for like 1. We'll go through them real fast. Accompanying Flute reveal the top 5 cards of your opponent's deck. You may choose any number of basic Pokemon you find there and put those onto their bench. Your opponent shuffles the other cards back into their deck. This card is just absurd for Quadlax. Absolutely broken for Snorlax in general. I honestly kind of wish they didn't print this card. This card seems pretty toxic, and I don't like the idea of the kind of gameplay that it's going to bring about with Snorlax. So not a huge fan of this card existing, but it is very good with Snorlax. The bug catching set, this is the grass card I was talking about with the Diplins. Like if you're running this, if this is a good card to run with the Diplin deck, then you don't want to play the Dragon Diplin. But if you're just running like Poffins and Nest Balls and stuff, then you probably want to play the Dragon Diplin instead. But this card seems pretty good in like the Diplin Thwacky deck. Look at the top 7 cards of your deck. You may reveal up to 2 in a combination of grass Pokemon and grass basic energy cards you find there and put them into your hand, then shuffle the other cards back into your deck. Yeah, I don't see why you wouldn't play this in like a 4/4 Diplin plus 4/4 Thwacky deck. $5 grass Pokemon, that's good. Need an energy, can also find energy. Pretty broken, sounds pretty broken to me for sure. But if for some reason this isn't good, you always got that Dragon Diplin to fall back on. Carmine, if you go first, you may play this card during your first turn, discard your hand and draw 5 cards. Very interesting supporter. Definitely a buff to Lugia, as it's the main deck that's running Luminion right now, and really wants to be aggressive about getting cards in the discard pile. Those Archeops, of course, are what we're trying to get there. So yeah, Carmine, really cool supporter. Big fan of it. 4 of in my buy list. The Community Center, once during each player's turn, if they played a supporter from their hand during this turn, they may heal 10 damage from each of their Pokemon. Very situational stadium, but like all the other trainer cards, if I think it is cool or unique, it's going to make its way onto the buy list as a 4 of. So the Community Center did. Cook, heal 7 damage from your active Pokemon. Enhanced Hammer, discard a special energy, a card attached to one of your opponent's Pokemon. Been a little while since we've had Enhanced Hammer in the format, but it's back. It's on the buy list as a 4 of. The Festival Grounds, the stadium card that combos with the Festival Pokemon. Each Pokemon in play that has any energy attached to it, both yours and your opponent's, recovers from all special conditions and can't be affected by any special conditions. So the effect of the stadium doesn't really matter, but this is the stadium you're going to be running with that Diplin deck. You don't actually need to run this stadium if you're doing the Thwacky engine with the Goldeen stuff, because you just need the Pokemon with the ability and the active. You actually don't need the stadium in play for it to actually work with Thwacky. So this stadium is really only for the Diplin deck overall, or I guess Goldeen, like some kind of Goldeen control deck you could also play this with as well. Speaking of control cards, the Handheld Fan, and they've been giving us a lot for control recently. If the Pokemon this card is attached to is in the active spot and is damaged by an attack from your opponent's Pokemon, even if this Pokemon is knocked out, move an energy from the attacking Pokemon to one of your opponent's bench Pokemon. Yeah, definitely seems pretty decent. I'm not sure what deck this is best in, but yeah, decent in maybe Luxray for another control card to work with. I've seen it in the Snorlax, the Quadlax decks as well, so people have been playing it in there. Yeah, overall, it's a really good control disruptive card. Definitely gonna see some play in stuff like Quadlax or forms of control. Up next, we got the Hassle. Look at the top 8 cards of your deck. Put any 3 of them into your hand and shuffle the rest into your deck. But you can only use this if your opponent took a knockout during their last turn. It's okay. It still made its way to the buy list. Cards like this are pretty iffy overall, because you can't use them in the mid and early game sometimes, or early game at all, and then mid game as well if your opponent's actually not taking a KO. Stuff like Raihan was a little bit unique because it gave energy acceleration and let you search your deck for any one card. That's a pretty powerful effect. Something like the Hassle, we could just play a research and basically see all those same cards as well and get access to them. It just let us build on our hand, but little bit more iffy for sure. The Hyper Aroma. Search your deck for 3 stage 1 Pokemon, reveal them and put them in your hand, then shuffle your deck. At first, I didn't think this card was that good, but the more I thought about it and had some ideas thrown at me, where I was like, okay, maybe it actually works pretty well for those. Stuff like the Golden Go deck. Or I've seen some builds of Kirlia include this as well. Not sure how I feel about that, but like Golden Go EX is like a great example of a deck that would love this card. Giving up Prime Catcher is pretty rough, to be honest, but if you're setting up 3 Golden Goes turn 2 with ease because you went, I don't know, Irida for Hyper Aroma, I don't know if you care too much, to be honest. So yeah, the Hyper Aroma definitely solves some problems for some decks like Golden Go, I think, for sure. Powerful A-spec overall. Got the Jamming Tower. It's going to be our way to remove or deal with tool cards once Vacuum rotates, probably. Pokemon tool cards attached to Pokemon in play, both yours and your opponents, have no effect. That's it. Kieran, a very cool utility supporter card here. Switch your active Pokemon with one of your bench Pokemon, and then, or you can pick the other effect. During this turn, your Pokemon's attacks do 30 more damage to your opponent's active Pokemon EX or active Pokemon V. So damage boost or switch. Definitely powerful in stuff like Charizard. If Charizard is still good, I would say for sure. Not sure what else you'd really want to include this in, but there will definitely be moments where you just want to be able to do 30 more damage. Where you're just 30 damage short every time on a certain turn in a certain matchup, and then Kieran will actually solve that for you. The Lana's Rod, a Pokemon recovery supporter here. Put up to 3 inning combination of Pokemon that don't have a rule box and basic energy cards from your discard pile into your hand. Off the rip, I don't see this card being super powerful, but Clara, which is a card that is very similar to Lana's Aid here. What do they call it? Lana's Rod? Lana's Aid here definitely had its moments throughout its existence in the standard format. And this is very, very similar. So I definitely think Lana's Aid will find its spot into a few decks. Nothing too crazy. It's not that powerful of a card overall, but will have its moments. Love Ball. I wasn't sure if I wanted to include this one on the buy list or not, but I thought, hey, I mean, definitely the situation could come up where one deck is so popular that you would want to play Love Ball. Search your deck for a Pokemon with the same name as one of your opponent's Pokemon in play, reveal it and put it to your hand, then shuffle your deck. If a deck got like up to like 30-40% of the meta, then you would definitely want to consider including this in your deck. Hey, even right now, with how popular Charizard was, with Charizard hitting like 25% of the meta, I could see it being worth including one of these in your Charizard deck for the mirror match. Maybe we might need to get it to at least 30% of the meta before you consider that, but we could definitely get to that point. So yeah, Love Ball made its way onto the buy list. Lucky Helmet reprint here. If the Pokemon this card is attached to is in the active spot and is damaged from an attack from your opponent's Pokemon, even if it is knocked out, draw 2 cards. The Ogre's Mask. I did include this on my buy list because there might be still something to do with like the Grass Ogre Pawn. I'm not too convinced on the Ogre deck overall, but yeah, it did make its way to my buy list. The Ogre's Mask did, even if all the Ogre Pawns didn't, but it's a pretty unique card. So Ray Fort, look at the top 5 cards of your deck, discard any number of the cards you find there, put the other cards back in any order. Once again, a little bit of a unique effect on a supporter, so I did include this on my buy list as well. Maybe you could see some play in like a Lugia deck. Probably not, but yeah, super unique effect on the supporter. So I feel like, once again, it's one of those things you just kind of want to have around just in case. Scoop up Cyclone, a reprint of an older A-spec. Put one of your Pokemon and all cards attached to it into your hand. Definitely solid, more niche A-spec. An A-spec that I think is pretty bad, but I think will probably still have its moment. At least once, it'll make its way into a meta deck in like the top 3 tiers at some point. Search your deck for an item card, a Pokemon tool card, a supporter card, and a stadium card. Reveal them and put them to your hand, then shuffle your deck. But you do have to discard 3 cards to actually use this card, and that's kind of the big drawback. You have to find it, you have to discard 3 cards, and then you get an item card, a tool card, a supporter card, and a stadium card. And the biggest thing with this card is definitely the way to find item cards consistently is playing a supporter card. So the supporter card you get off a secret box, you can't even use. So I don't think this lines up very well in any deck at all immediately when it releases, but I think it could definitely find its moment a little bit later on. But as of right now, I feel like just like tool cards and stadium cards are just pretty weak overall. I guess we do have like 4 Sealstone and stuff, but yeah, like I said, to find secret box, you basically have to play a supporter to find it, and then the biggest, most impactful card you'd get off secret box would be a supporter. You can't play it because you played your supporter to find the secret box. So yeah. Survival Brace. If the Pokemon this card is attached to has full HP and will be knocked out by damage from an attack from your opponent's Pokemon, it is not locked out and the remaining HP becomes 10, then discard this card. Yeah, I think it is a pretty decent tool card here. It can also be recovered and utilized again, which is pretty interesting. You could get this back after your opponent attempts to knock you out. They don't knock you out, goes to the discard pile, bring it back, do it again. Unlike those 2 new ace specs that got released that have the extra text that says you can't actually recover them. Of course, we do still have Lost Vacuum in the format, but Lost Vacuum will be rotating with next rotation. So we'll see if they actually print any way to deal with tool cards after that or not. If they don't, I don't know, it could be Survival Brace's time. This is one of those ace specs I definitely expect to pop up and kind of be just in the perfect situation. There'll be like a perfect spot in a format coming up at some point where this is just like perfect for it, and it just like wins the tournament or something like that, or it like solves a matchup where that deck isn't playing a way to deal with tools right now currently in the format, and then you include this, and then all of a sudden it makes your deck just win a matchup it lost before. So it'll have its moment at some point, definitely. The Unfair Stamp. You can only play this card if one of your Pokemon were knocked out during your opponent's last turn. Each player shuffles their hand into the deck, and then you draw 5 and your opponent draws 2. So a very aggressive, potentially early disruption card in an item form. Insanely powerful card. I'm excited for this one a lot. It doesn't seem like it's going to be, or it hasn't been as played since Dragapult came out over in Japan, because they've been playing more aggressive item cards or ace specs in the Dragapult deck, but it still popped up here and there in a bunch of different decks. And yeah, I'm excited to get my hands on it and try out the Unfair Stamp, because yeah, absurdly powerful card to use potentially in the early game. Setting your opponent down to 2 cards on like turn 2 is kind of crazy. The Boomerang Energy, a colorless energy. If this energy is discarded by the effect of an attack used by the Pokemon it's attached to, you attach this card from your discard pile to the Pokemon after it's done attacking. So something like that Cramorant that we talked about early, 3 colorless energy, 120 damage to one of your opponent's bench Pokemon. You discard the energy, and if you had 3 Boomerang energy on the Cramorant, you put them all back on the Cramorant right after you're done attacking. So pretty cool energy. Definitely could see it being utilized in something like Lugia with some snipe attackers like the Cramorant. If not, I expect it to find its place at some point in the future for sure. Legacy Energy here provides every type of energy, but only 1 energy at a time. And then when the Pokemon this card is attached to is knocked out by damage from one of your opponent's Pokemon, from an attack from your opponent's Pokemon, they take 1 less prize card. The effect of your Legacy Energy can't be applied more than once per game. So if your opponent knocks out a Pokemon with Legacy Energy on it, you could recover Legacy Energy with like Roseanne's Backup or Silene, but you wouldn't be able to get the effect making your opponent draw 1 less prize card happen anymore that game. But if your opponent like Enhanced Hammers away your Legacy Energy, then knocks you out and gets all their prize cards they should for the Pokemon they KO'd, you could recover Legacy Energy with Roseanne's Backup or Silene and then put it back into play. And then when your opponent takes a knockout on that Pokemon, they would draw 1 less prize card. So super powerful energy card here. It's going to be a really big boost to Lugia specifically. Going to give you out to attacking with the Water Ogerpon that we talked about earlier, attack with Iron Hands, Radiant Charizard potentially even, and also being able to attack with Luminion again, which is one of the most powerful things that you used to be able to do in Lugia, was attack with your Luminion and shuffle it back to your deck. That is also something you're going to be able to do with this Legacy Energy in Lugia once again. Yeah, so super powerful card here in the Legacy Energy. And that's going to do it for my set review and buy list. Like I said, buy list will be in the description in a Google Doc. I listed all the other relevant, seemingly good previous stages for all the other Pokemon. So make sure you go check those out as well if you're trying to be as equipped as possible, as equipped as I am when I go to tournaments. Check all that out. Link in the description. Catch y'all in the next video. Peace.